So today we'll discuss a very important topic that is about swine influenza, commonly known as swine flu, right? You might have heard about this disease because it was very, hot topic in the last few years about this swine flu. Okay, and you might have heard about this avian influenza, that is bird flu also. Okay, it is more or less similar. Only thing is that the this animal species involvement is different, but both are zoonotic. Okay, means it is having zoonotic importance. And when we are talking about this disease, swine influenza, so you might have experience, or you might have, sometimes during the, this winter season, mostly people used to have the seasonal flu, right? So that is the one, particularly when we are talking about this influenza. So similarly, in case of these animals, like these different species of these animals, like your swine population, then avian, and other domestic animals also, means they used to also have this kind of this influenza. But some of these, like swine flu and bird flu, or swine influenza, or this avian influenza, are having very much, this zoonotic importance in the last few years. And as per the history is also concerned, three pandemics. Okay, currently, this presently we are having this COVID, this corona, this virus pandemic, right? So like that, this influenza pandemic, during this 1918, this Spanish flu, then 1958-59, that is this Asian flu, then another, this is 1968-69, this Hong Kong flu. So like that, three pandemics have already occurred. Okay, and in all these three pandemics during this 20th century, what I have mentioned, this Spanish flu, Asian flu, and this Hong Kong flu. So particularly this swine influenza, and the virus is mainly this causing this swine influenza. Okay, that is commonly known as H1N1, then H1N3, then the H2N3, then this H2N1, this H1N3, and like to like. So this kind of this strains of this influenza type A viruses of the family Orthomyxoviridae and family Viridae. So these viruses used to have very much, this typical nature of this virus. About, you might have heard about this reassortment. Just simply means what to say, genetic mutation. Okay, so this mutation occurs in this virus, and they used to produce so many, different this strains. And out of this, some of the strains are having too much, this mutative, this mutation power, and they used to have this reassortment, double reassortment, and this triple reassortment also. Okay, so like that, this virus can affect, the humans also, not only the this animal population. Means now I'm talking about the swine influenza and the swine flu. So not only affecting the so they can this transmit towards the this human also, particularly the person, those people who are this in close contact with the these pigs, like this farmers, or the this attendants who are looking after the this pig farms and all. So like that particularly. But because of this mutation power and this genetic drift, and this shifting and antigenic, this shift and drifting, so transformation into some other, this genetic transformation, this mutation may occur, and the new strain may develop. And once this kind of this new this strain is developed and affecting the human, transferring from this this animal, this swine population, then from those affected person, so man to man transmission, that means person to person transmission may occur. So that is the threat given by the World Health Organization about this disease. Because of that, we should be very much careful about this. This pandemic, which may occur. Okay, after having contact with the this affected pigs and all. So first we have to know what kind of this disease this swine influenza. So for the animal population, that means in the swine population is concerned, how they used to get this infection, how the disease used to be transmitted, then what are the clinical signs and symptoms, then what is the mode of this transmission toward the human beings and all this, right? So I will give you some brief ideas about those things. And as I have already mentioned you that the three pandemics as means part of history is concerned. So in all those this virus, this influenza virus, particularly the Korean this circulating virus, so far this swine influenza is concerned. So there are three types of this these subtypes or strains of this influenza type A virus among the pig population. Those are H1N1, H1N2, and H3N2. And out of this H1N1 virus, okay, means it was considered as the classical swine influenza virus, which was first known to have infected the pigs, and it was first detected in among the swine population in the year 1918. Okay, 1918, and in those these years, and particularly in that this what world have this experience the first pandemic of this disease, this swine influenza, this virus transmitting to the these humans, affecting the human, and so many these millions of human death occur during that. That is, I am talking about the Spanish flu. Okay, so like that, these are the I hope you might have learned the virus morphological structures in virology in this microbiology class or not, because I will not go in details about those things, as means when you see the structure of the virus and all. So on the surface, and two surface antigens, heme agglutinin and this neuraminidase used to do, and the subtypes, the typing of the virus is basing on these two surface antigens, heme agglutinin and the neuraminidase. Okay, so like that, this when we are talking about this, there are 16 heme agglutinins and 9 neuraminidase on the surface of the virus, this virus surface. So if you do the permutation and combination, mostly around 144 strains subtypes you will get. Okay, so out of that, some of the species strains subtypes, as I'm talking about H1N1, then H1N2, H3N2. So these are the most commonly occurring this prevalent subtypes or strains of this type A this influenza virus circulating among the pig population. Okay, so like that, and this in avian this influenza also you might have heard about H5N1. Okay, like that, this and other animals different this strains subtypes used to be involved and affecting the these different species of these animals, right? So one thing here I would like to say is that when we are talking about this type A influenza virus, so it is hypothesized that particularly the wild aquatic birds, like these wild aquatic birds, like these wild ducks and all these things, those wild aquatic birds, they are considered to be the source or reservoir of this type A influenza virus. Okay, and from that, when the other species of animal, including human also, like when they are coming into contact, or maybe due to the contaminated this food and water, the sources, like when those wild aquatic birds were this there and the excretions, particularly the feces and the body excretions, like nasal secretions and all these things, so excretions, so that is coming out of these affected birds, then normally they don't show the signs and symptoms of this disease. And they used to excrete the virus through their body excretion or secretions and all. And the environment, I mean, the like water and all this in the surface. So it used to be contaminated. So if it is coming into contact with other species of these animals and the different species of animal, including human, then they may contract the infection. So these wild aquatic birds are considered as a reservoir of these influenza A viruses. Then interspecies transmission of the virus that may also occur, like, I mean, from one, I mean, this animal particularly, I'm just talking about this swine population, pig. So when it is having the, this affected, I mean, from this virus, like maybe this H1N1 or this H1N3 and this H2N3 or like, so this kind of this virus can be transmitted to the human or to other species of animal also. And from human also, the human influenza virus circulating in the human population, maybe H1N1, for example. So that may also be, can be transmitted to the pig. That means vice versa. I mean, the viruses carrying by the human, or as in case of the people, this vice versa, it can be, I mean, this transmitted from pig to human or man to, I mean, this human to pig. Whereas in case of this avian influenza, so the virus can be transmitted to the human, but from human to, I mean, this avian population, it cannot be. And if you see it in this picture also, I'll see, I mean, show some other slides also, when we are talking about the mixing of the different strains of the virus, readsorbment, double readsorbment, and the triple readsorbment, all that means different species of, or strains, subtypes of this influenza and this A viruses can be mixed up from different sources. Like, I'm just giving the example of avian, then human, then pig, for example. As you know, this pig can, I mean, the viruses from the bird, avian species can be transmitted to this pig, as well as from human also can be transmitted to the pig. So pig used to act, I mean, they can act as a mixing vessel, melting pot, to mix up the different species of the strains or subtypes of these influenza A viruses. That means from avian, poultry, then from human, and as well as their own circulating virus. That means 3 types of these influenza viruses can be mixed up in the body of this pig. One is its own circulating this influenza virus, then one from received from the, I mean, this human, maybe another from this avian species. So it can be mixed up. That is known as 3 readsorbment. Okay, triple, 3 different subtypes, and it can just make, and that means a new strain can be developed after mutation, genetic transformation, genetic and this transformation from avian species and I mean your human, then its own, I mean, this circulating virus and all. So a new strain can be developed, and if it is like that, and that very new strength which is developed from after mixing up these 3 subtypes, one from human, another from avian, and one on its own, that means of the swine population, then the newly developed strain may be of very this virulent type, who knows, and it may be having a potential to affect the human very severely, and from person to person, human to human transmission may occur. That is the assumption. Possibility is also there. Like now, I mean, this COVID itself, it is thought that, hypothesized that maybe source may be from, for example, I mean, it is little bit controversial, of course. I mean, from the wild animals and all these things like bat and all that, right? And from Wuhan, China, and all people are talking about. Then now it has been transmitted to human. Then person to person, human to human, it is starting, right? So like that, in case of this influenza virus also, means already so many cases of these human cases transmitted, particularly those people who are in close contact with poultry, so far bird flu is concerned, and as in case of this swine flu is concerned, those people engaged in pig farm, or I'm just handling the, I'm just pig, or like I'm this veterinarians, or like, So those people are only just getting the infection mostly so far. But human to human transmission and person to person transmission, it is not yet occur. But if such kind of this triple readjustment producing a new strain which may have the potential to cause such kind of this person to person transmission, then very difficult, and this situation may arise that this another pandemic, of that three type of this, these pandemics I have already experienced by the world, right? So like that, another pandemic may occur. So that should be prevented, that should be checked, that should be controlled, that should not happen. So that's why World Health Organization is giving this importance to restrict and to prevent this disease in the animal population itself, means swine population in the for the swine flu. Then even this influenza in the avian population, poultry. Okay, so that the transmission towards the human can be checked. And then another pandemic, the chances of this another pandemic means once the person to person, man to man, this transmission occurs, then that kind of this pandemic occurs. So that should be checked, that should be controlled or prevented, right? So that is the importance. Okay, so now these are the, these possibilities. Please go through it. I will not go into. There are so many slides. As I was talking about this different. This mixing up of the different strains or subtypes of the viruses. Okay, different colors are having different strains. Is indicated by H1N1. Then this H2N3, H3N2, or different. This strain. Like when it is mixing up, then the three color this pigs, that means they are carrying that kind of this triple reassorted this strain. Already three strains have mixed up and producing a new strain. Among the pig population, I'm not talking about a human. Okay, and then the chances of, as I was talking about, suppose sorry, these are the three talking about means of course like that. Spanish flu, can you see it? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, actually, it was interrupted. I didn't know that. I didn't notice it. Internet was having some problem actually in between. So I was talking about three pandemics, right? So the first pandemic which occurred in the 20th century, that is, the first one was 1918, known as Spanish flu. Okay, the involvement so far in this, 20 to 40 million human population, this death, right? And the involved strain was H1N1. Then 1957-58, then Asian flu, it was known as. In that case, 1 to 4 million deaths, human I'm talking about. And the third one was 1968-69, Hong Kong flu. There also 1 to 4 million death, human population death. And there, the specific, the subtype or the strain involvement was H3N2. So like this, these three pandemics have this experienced by the world and shown that the involvement of these influenza viruses mainly originated from the pig, that is H1N1, H2N2, and H3N2, and substances were involved in those pandemics. So like that, who knows? Now, we are talking about I mean, this the possibility of these viruses which is circulating among the pig population, and when people are, those people who are in close contact with the pig, in those pig industry or this pig farm and all, so they are having the chances to contract the infection, and they are getting it. There are so many cases also, and so far, person to person, man to man, this transmission has not yet been, reported, right? But after getting the, I'll show you, oh, sorry, here, one slide I would like to show you. So when people, are rearing, for example, pig as well as the swine population, this pig as well as the, this poultry. So in that case, the one what I was talking about, the triple reabsorbment means the pig can be, this affected by the human strain also, as well as the avian strain, and their its own circulating virus type of influenza virus. So these three viruses can be mixed up. Okay, human type as well as the avian type, and its own the pig, its own circulating. So three types of this, these strains can be mixed up, and that may produce a new strain. There is a great chance for producing in that case. That's why pig is considered as a mixing vessel or melting pot, because it can produce, this have the, this potential to this produce this type of this new strain by triple reabsorbment and mixing up the different strains, originated from avian as well as human. So that's why they can produce chances of producing a new strain, and that may have the potential to affect human, and human to human transmission may occur. Then another pandemic is world has already this experienced 3 pandemics, right? So like that, chances is there. So that should be checked, that should be controlled, and that should be prevented. So how can we do this by preventing this disease or controlling this disease among the animal population? That is swine, this influenza in the swine population, whereas in case of the this avian influenza in avian population. So then only means we can check, so that the transmission of this disease towards the human cases can be checked. Otherwise, that chances will remain. So we should this know the this type of this avian influenza as well as this this swine influenza in the animal population, what kind of diseases. And by knowing the clinical signs and symptoms and the nature of the disease and all these things, then we can check among this animal population itself. So in case of this swine influenza, as I was talking about, okay, that is just coming to the affected animals, the pigs. Okay, so they may show initially in the early stages, in the initial, mostly the young pigs are most severely affected by this virus. And the clinical signs when we are, observing the affected animals, they may have fever, or loss of appetite, then loss of weight, and they will be very inactive. Then prostration means very much weakness, leading to, this stretching their neck and lying down, almost that type of this condition. Okay, very much weak exhaustion and all, leading to, this lying down on the ground and like that. Then huddling together, the affected animals, they may huddle together, gathering together in a corner like, and very much weakness. Later on, they may, suddenly then they will start showing the respiratory signs like paroxysmal coughing, means intermittent type of this coughing, violent type of this intermittent and this coughing. Okay, then sneezing, irregular abdominal breathing, Then some discharges from the eyes and nostrils, like ocular and nasal discharges. Like, I mean, this is my experience or my heart also, like in the seasonal flu also, we used to have runny nose, right? So like that, I mean, the animal also used to have some discharges from the nasal discharges as well as ocular discharges, right? And this is the picture I'm just showing. I mean, the very simple and this is symmetric diagram. And according to the different this system affected, of course, but mostly the respiratory system is very common. Like, so sneezing, then this mucus discharges from the eyes and ocular, and this nasal discharges. Then this fever, weight loss, pore growth. Then they used to be very much lethargic, and the loss of appetite will be there. And so far this respiratory signs, when suddenly they start showing then this intermittent type of this violent coughing, sore throat, okay. And when intestines are involved in the digestive system, then this peak, the affected this peaks may show the sign of this diarrhea, the problem, they may have diarrhea, okay. And these are some different from different sources and all. And one thing I would like to say is that when we are talking about this disease among the pig population, of course, it is not that means it is showing very much high mortality and all. It is not like that. Mortality is very less, very low. But whereas the morbidity, when we are talking about the morbidity, it is almost 10%. Okay, in the new population, this animal net population of the swine and all these things. And then it will be almost 100% morbidity rate will be there. But whereas mortality, case fatality and all, it is very less. Okay. Then, and one more thing is that when the animal is having such kind of this respiratory signs, then your this diarrhea or maybe fever and the lethargic type and very much exhaustion and all this thing, that is not that much. This severe type, and recovery may be there within just 1 week. After the clinical sign and symptoms, and after 5 to 7 days, of course, normally the animal used to recover from this infection. But one thing is that when we are talking about the secondary invaders, like this bacterial infections and all, if it is there, then it may worsen this condition. It may be this causing severe respiratory signs of this pneumonia, right? So in those cases, of course, a little bit higher mortality may be there. Otherwise, it may not show much this mortality, and the recovery is almost occur within 1 week of this infection, right? Then, so far this respiratory problems are concerned. When we are talking about the pregnant animals and the breeding and these animals and all. So the reproductive performance of both male and females, so it can be this affected, and there may be this elevated rectal temperature in the boars. So far the breeding boars are concerned, which may result in adverse effects on the testicles as well as the spermatogenesis. So it may reduce fertility, that's why. Then depending upon the stage of this pregnancy gestation period, the affected females can show different reproductive problems, like your delayed, in the return of the stress. There may be cases of the abortions, so there may be some cases of reduction and this reduced bioavailability of the piglets at birth. Okay, then as well as the milk production in the lactating shows these females, so that is also there, means it used to be very much reduced, and it may give result this reverse effects on the nursing piglets. Suppose this milk production from those lactating shows are there, the high this drastically reduced, automatically of course it will adversely affect the nursing piglet. So the piglet, suckling piglet, they will not get this milk, so the growth will not be there, right? So adversely, they may have this kind of this problem also, right? So these are some other this different sources. Similarly, as only thing as I was talking about, until and unless complications or secondary bacterial invasions or the infections are not there, so they will not show much this clinical signs and symptoms severe. But when it is there, then means severe, this form of this pneumonia, like maybe bronchopneumonia and all this thing may be there. In such cases, the fatality rate will be higher. Otherwise, means it is not that much, this high. So for this simple infection, only this virus infection is concerned. Okay, then coming to the post-mortem lesions, the affected parts of the lungs are depressed, consolidated, and they may show dark red to purple red color. And these parts of the affected lungs used to be well demarcated from the different other parts of the lungs. And this kind of this lesion may be found throughout the lungs, but they are usually much extensive in the ventral regions. And the other part of the lungs may be pale and this emphysematous. And the airways, that means the trachea and the bronchi and these bronchioles and all airways, they are dilated and usually filled with mucopollutant type of this exudates. So that's why means they used to have this respiratory problem, difficulty in breathing, this abdominal breathing and all these things, right? And the bronchial and mediastinal lymph nodes, they are typically edematous but not congested. Means the lymph nodes, particularly the bronchial and mediastinal lymph nodes, they may be edematous, but they are not showing any congestion. And severe pulmonary edema as well as serous or seroprevinous type of this pleuritis, the outer covering membrane of the lungs, the pleura, what we call. So that may also show some kind of, this exudation like serous or previnous type of this exudate, as well as, even the lungs as a whole, they may show a little bit, this edematous, right? And some strains of this virus, swine influenza virus, can produce more marked lesions than others. Means it depends upon the different strains of this virus, like H1N1, H1N2, and then H2N3 and all this. So they may show different type of this lesion, severity also different. And the generalized limb adenopathy, hepatic congestion, and pulmonary consolidation are also reported in severe disease outbreaks among the swine population. So it depends upon the different strains, the severity of this disease. So these are some of the pictures, okay, showing this diffuse color and the consolidation of the cranial lobes and the multifocal lobular consolidation of the caudal lobes, okay, like this, showing this bronchointerstitial pneumonia, bronchopneumonia, one kind of interstitial pneumonia, and another picture showing purple red and this consolidation in the cranial as well as the middle lobe and here, right? Then these are another picture of this lungs affected one, and the microscopic picture also. This is the normal one, control one, and when you make the section of the affected lungs, so you will find congestion of the vessels and the interstitial tissue, and this interstitium, interalveolar septa, used to be very much thickened, okay, like this. And this is another picture, similarly, like this here, the thickening of the interalveolar septa, okay, and with infiltration of many inflammatory cells and exudates, right? These are some more pictures showing the affected lungs, right? Then these are some lung tissue for different techniques for isolation of for detection of the affected this inflammatory cells and the virus particles inside the lung tissue. Then now coming to the zoonotic importance, when the disease, as I was talking about, having zoonotic importance, means it is highly zoonotic, human can be affected. Okay, so there are some reports that in the year 2009, H1N1 virus from the swine population origin. So it was established in human population and causing a pandemic type. Means almost many people they have been affected by this virus and this novel H1N1. Okay, and the genetic analysis of that very particular strain says that the virus was probably transmitting to human, and it might have been circulating among the pigs. Is an unknown location of for years. Immersed in which has been immersed into the human population and all before emerging and all. Means it might have been circulating among the pig population since so many years and all. And those three this pandemics also already this experienced by the globe, the world have already shown that the this virus, influenza type A influenza virus affecting the swine population, where the this strains involved in those three pandemics, right? So like that, chances now, another, this swine influenza, what is, happening now, in this present and this world and this situation, there, these three strains of this, influenza type A viruses circulating among the pig population. So having the chance to affect human, and the more this difficulty is that the triple reabsorbment, that means chances of getting this infection, that is when we are talking about, this is picture, if I will explain along with this picture. Suppose the pig, as I have already mentioned you that pig can be affected by the human strain as well as the avian strain. And the pig itself, its own strain, this virus strain, as I was talking about, three types of this strain they used to have in their circulating, in their circulation, means H1N1, H1N3, and then H2, N3, like so, like that. Chances of getting these three different type of this strain, one from human, another from avian, and its own. So reabsorbment of these three strains, triple reabsorbment, that what we call. Then a new strain can be developed and produced from this affected pig. So that's why rearing pig and this this poultry in the rear proximity, this very close proximity, it is prevented. It should not be. And the human, suppose the person who is looking after the pig population, pig farm, as well as the animal, so they should not also mix up, and it should not be having such kind of this close proximity, the farming of these two species. Then if it is so, then chances of the this producing new strain by mixing up the three strains, human, avian, as well as the this swine. So that new strain, which having a chance to produce this new strain, may have a great potential to affect the human and man-to-man transmission and all this. So that is an alert and this assumption this by the World Health Organization that should be prevented, right? And this is the one, what I was talking about, means how this viral reabsorbment this like this. Okay. From the pig, then human and avian mixing up, so triple reabsorbment and chances of producing a new strain, develop totally a new strain having a pandemic potential. So if it is so, then this another pandemic may occur. Okay, so that should be prevented. So this is another picture. Similarly, and that type of this, this may occur, and that should be prevented, right? So this is also, and that very new strain develop after triple reabsorbment, and if it is affecting the human, and the person may transmit to other person, means man-to-man, a person-to-person transmission, and this way it may spread out. Then automatically this pandemic, killing, and this chances of killing so many people like other and these three pandemics what World Health has already experienced, right? So in this case, two term and this terminology, these mechanisms, one is known as antigenic shift and another is antigenic drift among these influenza type A viruses. Okay, so I will show you with picture like. So when we are talking about the antigenic drifting, that means within the this same strain, due to genetic mutation, transformation, if some genetic material is transformed, changing and all, and producing new strain. And in case of this antigenic shifting, there is within the strains, substrains, this is within the same, this strain. This is among the different strains, like maybe one is human, another is avian, another is pig, like three different strains are there. So the genetic materials have been shifted from different strands and producing a new strand, where different genetic materials have been and this transform or coming and receiving from the different three strands of this, I mean human, then avian, and the pig, I mean, for example. And all those genetic materials mix up and may produce a new virus strand. So this is the one what we are on this having the, I mean, the elder and the World Health Organization is giving the on this. So chances is there, and if it happens, then this may have the potential or great potential to affect human, then from human to human, person to person transmission in spreading a disease among the human population. So that is one on, and to happen like these things, so we should restrict, we should prevent and control the disease itself within the animal population. Swine influenza in swine population, avian influenza in this poultry population, then it may not happen, right? So that is the objective, I mean this, okay. And this is same thing, I mean this picture showing that kind of this viral, this antigenic shifting and producing a new virus strain, chances of producing a new strain, okay. So that's why, as I was talking about some question, like, I mean, this justification or and this I mean reasoning means sometimes you may come across in the examination that pigs act as a reservoir, or I mean this melting pot or mixing vessel for avian as well as the human, I mean this influenza type A viruses, as I have already explained, because pig can be affected by the human strain or as well as the avian strain, and it's on, what is that, on strain. So they can mixing up, they are having the potential to mix up these three different strains within their body. So that's why pigs are considered as the melting pot or the mixing vessel for the different influenza viruses, mainly of the avian as well as the human in their body, right? That is the reason, I mean. Then the symptoms, clinical signs and symptoms in the human, and these cases when people are having this swine flu, this in humans, then it is this internet is disturbing a lot. So lastly, the clinical signs and symptoms in case of this human, it is more or less same as normal, this influenza in humans. This viral fever where people used to talk about, and mostly it is people used to have, initially the sore throat, runny nose, okay, and the body pain, and this respiratory problems and all. But later on, when it is little bit severe and all these things, okay. So in such cases, you may have different severe this pneumonia and the chronic obstructive type of this pulmonary disease, and this asthma, okay. When it is mainly complicated with the secondary bacterial infections. Otherwise, those things, it will not much this happen. Means when it is worsened, like this having asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and other complicated this respiratory problem and all. That is mainly due to the secondary invaders, bacterial infections and all. And in some cases, you may have this vomition, then diarrhea, and mostly the runny nose and a little bit headache, body pain, and this exhaustion, weakness, and all these things, right? As normally people used to have within during the seasonal flu. Okay, so those are similarly here also. This until and unless complications are not there, so you will not have much this problem. Like so, in a very simple this diagrammatic and this one diagram showing the human signs and symptoms for the swine flu. So this you may have having this fever, lethargy, and lack of this loss of appetite. Then this respiratory problem like this coughing, then this sneezing. Okay, runny nose, sore throat, body pain, joint pain, and this vomiting tendency, vomition also, and the diarrhea and all these things. These are the common clinical signs and symptoms so far swine influenza in humans. Okay, and sometimes some little bit this severe cases as I was talking about. So mostly in the age group of this 19 to 40, followed by the this 45 to 55 age group, they have shown just more fatality so far the reports are concerned. Okay, and in those cases mostly of course it is depending upon the immune status of the this animals, sorry, these humans I am talking about, and this in a different age group people and all these things. So like that this the fatality or the this case severity and all these things may be different as to different age group and on, and mostly the young this 19 to 40 they are more this severely affected also, and the more case fatalities they may show. Okay, and lastly some viral this antiviral this drugs I'm just giving. So those are this you will learn in medicine also these things. It is not much related to our class this pathology. So those are this oseltamivir, then this zanamivir, then peramivir, then amantadine, this rimantadine, and these are some of the name of the drugs which are mainly used for this swine flu so far, and these human cases are concerned. Okay, and lastly for this diagnosis of the this disease in so far this in the swine population are concerned. So mainly this you have to go for this seeing first this from the clinical signs and symptoms. You may have the suspicion that maybe this influenza type virus and the runny nose, and then body pain, loss of appetite, fever, and all these things, respiratory problem and all. Then means you have to go for confirmation. Until and unless you confirm it by laboratory techniques and all these things, you cannot say that it is this swine flu and all. So those things this serological techniques, then like this hemagglutination inhibition test for the typing also, subtyping of this strain, and this for confirmation of the virus strain. This viral genome and all this things, it can be detected by RT-PCR. Okay, so for those things, people normally used to collect the this lung tissue is one of the this tissue during the post-mortem examination, and mostly the nasal and the pharyngeal swabs collected from the acutely affected this pigs. Okay, that is most commonly used for this detection of the viral antigen antibodies and the nucleic acids, as well as by different techniques like serological and the other molecular techniques like this RT-PCR and all, right? So this way means you can detect the this viral genomes and nucleic acid, the viral nucleic acids and all these things, and even you can go for typing of the strains by hemagglutination inhibition test and all. Then you can confirm that it is very particular this strain causing this in the human this swine population, like maybe H1N1, H1N3, and H2N3 and like that. So that way means it can be detected and confirmed that it is this. And finally, differential diagnosis. There are some diseases which may have similar signs and symptoms, even some lesions and all this, mostly in the clinical signs and symptoms. From that, it should be ruled out. Those are Kazakhsky's disease, atrophic rhinitis, angiotic pneumonia, mostly caused by mycoplasma, then bacterial pneumonia, mostly caused by Pastorella or Haemophilus and all. So that's all about this disease, swine influenza. Okay, and the other, like, and this equine influenza and all this, and then avian influenza, I have already mentioned. Only thing is that the species, the strain, I mean, source is mainly, I mean, those aquatic, these wild aquatic birds and all. And when different species of the type A influenza virus, the like, I mean, H and N, like hemagglutinin and neuraminidase. So the combination, combination, as I have already mentioned, 144 strain subtypes may be there. So among the out of that, I mean, this what, I mean, this strain is affecting what species of the group of the animal, which group of the these animals, like. So that is the thing. But the clinical signs and symptoms and the mode of transmission and all, it is more or less same. Okay, so that's all for today. Okay, thank you.